Who goes first?
We're going together.
You're together. Okay, so you
Together.
got a total of 20 minutes between PJ Dean representing United Phoenix Firefighters and Will Buvidas representing Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. I'll let you handle how you split the time. Good to see you.
Which does which? Do we know? I don't know. I think that goes forward. I know that one of those. Right. Oh, they did it. The one on the right. There you go. Okay, good.
Mayor Stanton, members of the council, my name is PJ Dean and I'm a fire captain with the City of Phoenix. I'm also the communications director for the United Phoenix Firefighters Association, Local 493. Presenting jointly with me today is Phoenix Police Officer Will Buvidas, who is also the treasurer and chief contract negotiator for the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. Officer Buvidas and I would like to thank the mayor and the council for the opportunity to speak before you today regarding this very important topic. We stand before you united in representation of the nearly 4,500 sworn police officers and firefighters who are your first responders in Phoenix. To begin, we're happy to say that there is recently a lot of good news concerning our city. The past several years have presented numerous seemingly insurmountable challenges to Phoenix. The issues of a historical recession, major leadership changes, a slash general fund, and mass exodus of employees are just to name a few. Any one of these issues alone could have proven catastrophic to a city like Phoenix, yet we seem to have all of them at once. These were some of the toughest times in our history, but rather than focus on the negative aspects of the challenges we faced, it's important to recognize what we did to overcome them. Your first responders did what we always do in emergencies: create an action to overcome a problem. We, along with the other employees of the city, dug deep. We made personal sacrifices, worked harder, longer, and more creatively so that we could continually serve the public effectively despite less money and resources to work with. Operating budgets, staffing levels, paychecks all declined, but our customer service and our standing within the community did not. As a result of this can-do attitude by the employees and the collective efforts of our city, Phoenix, like its mythical namesake, arose triumphantly from the ashes of the Great Recession, a better and stronger city who had proven by its actions that together we can accomplish anything. As we emerge from the darkness of the past, we are met with many great things, such as increased revenues, positive economic indicators for our city and state, along with a return to the practice of hiring personnel lost through attrition. And with these headlines, you'll see just a few examples of that, where Arizona was recently ranked #1 in the nation for job growth by Forbes magazine. Unbelievable positive news that inevitably will have an effect on Phoenix. Phoenix in itself has had good financial news. Just last summer reported higher revenues, lower expenditures, and actually showed a $25 million surplus.
Yes, everybody, I'm Will Buvidas from the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. I have the proud honor of representing these men and women of the Phoenix Police Department. Also behind us, you know, this is Sean Mattson, the president of PPSLA, the Sergeants and Lieutenant Group. Since they are a meet and discuss group, they are unable to present with us today. He wanted to come to show that he is also united with us on this message. Let me continue. This is all great news, but there's still more work to be done. As you know, first responders in Phoenix have endured 6 years worth of pay cuts and furloughs over the past 3 contracts as Phoenix emerges from one of the most profound fiscal crises in recent memory. As proud stakeholders of Phoenix, it was our honor and obligation to share in the sacrifices that were necessary to overcome the monetary challenges that the city faced. The financial health of the city of Phoenix has corrected, but regrettably, the sacrifices that these brave men and women have made have not been corrected. By its own projections, Phoenix is posed to experience year-over-year revenue growth through 2020. The concept of the city that is making more, yet paying its employees less, gives us great concern that Phoenix would rapidly lose competitive ground in the job market when compared to surrounding cities who have also experiencing similar, if not identical, financial challenges. It is beginning to appear that cuts to employee pay packages now represent the path of least resistance when attempting to facilitate a balanced budget. These kinds of practices are perfectly understandable in times of fiscal crisis, but confounding in our current state of affairs. As elected officials, you guys, the mayor and council, represent the will of the people to make decisions that will enable Phoenix to benefit as a whole. Every person on this council is our trusted safety net of discretion for what is right. We come to you today not only to illustrate the primary and secondary consequences of continued pay cuts to first responders, but also to ask for your support in helping us obtain a fair contract for the public safety employees of Phoenix. Facts. First responders has withstood 6 years of pay cuts, furloughs, benefit reductions, and increase to employee costs. The amount of the employee concessions since 2010 are at 4.1% of total pay. Unfortunately, these concessions go way beyond, or well beyond, what is contained in the contracts. When you take into account the concessions coupled with the increase to pension obligations and the increases to inflation, the total amount of reduction to our public safety's purchasing power is closer to 18%. It's actually right at 17.86%. That is an almost 18% loss in revenue that we would take home and support our families. This also does not include increases that we have borne out of our pockets to health care and other costs that have occurred along the last 6 years. These pay cuts represent real money for real families and has created a real sacrifice for these hardworking men and women of public safety.
We're here to ask you for support for black and brown people who are being murdered by the Phoenix Police Department. Rape, detention, deportation. We're done. We need your leadership. Phoenix Police Department needs to come here and answer those questions.
Ma'am, thank you very much. We'll have an opportunity for citizen comment at the end of the meeting.
1 year ago. No answers, no justice, nothing. We demand answers. ASU students get please call for.
Thank you very much.
Without reason, but Remain Brisbane was killed. We demand answers.
You will have an opportunity to testify at the end of the meeting as part of the request.
Compliance, your silence makes you an accomplice.
Mayor?
Justice for Remain!
Mayor?
Justice for Remain!
All right.
There's nothing to thank these individuals for. These people are belligerent, they're anti-police, and they are, as far as I'm concerned, it's unacceptable this type of behavior that these individuals are
Thank you for coming.
council. There's nothing to thank these people for. And it's unacceptable that they are willing to drown out other people who are willing to speak.
Councilman,
Mayor, they need to be ejected out of that room.
Councilman, I appreciate your advice.
They need to be ejected, Mayor. They're not allowed to disrupt other people who have a fundamental First Amendment right to speak.
Councilman, thank you for your advice. Okay, now we'll proceed back to regular order, and we'll make sure that no time was taken away from our two leaders of Phoenix Law Enforcement and United Phoenix Firefighters. Please continue. I apologize for that interruption.
Thank you, Mayor. As I was saying, we have accepted these sacrifices because of the city's financial crisis. But make no mistake, these pay cuts, along with the increases to pension costs for our families and rising inflation, along with rising health care costs, have created severe financial hardships in the houses of Phoenix police officers and Phoenix firefighters. Now, with the city's revenue recovered, with the city's economy growing again, we believe it is time for these sacrifices to end by having these pay cuts restored. If these cuts are continued, Phoenix will have a difficult time remaining competitor as the employer of choice with consecutive years of reduced pay, as surrounding cities have started to give out raises over the past few years. Tempe, as you see on the slide, is just one example of a surrounding municipality who has consistently given out raises over the past few years. Tempe employees have received pay raises for the last 3 years. This means that the Tempe employee who did make financial sacrifices at the bottom of the recession, just like Phoenix employees did, have only had to have those concessions for half the time. They only had concessions for 3 years, and now we're on 3 years of pay raises, while my men and women and the men and women of the fire department have now endured 6 years of pay cut. This is despite the fact that Tempe is experiencing the same financial challenges and the same increased public safety pension cost that Phoenix is. Another example is Dallas. Dallas is having a huge problem because they are not competitive with pay or pension in the Dallas area. There's been a large departure of experienced firefighters and police officers who left Dallas to go to the smaller surrounding suburbs. This scenario has been replicated all over the nation due to lagging pay in the major cities. It is a truly unfortunate circumstance, but if these men and women are forced to make a choice between their employers and their families, can you really blame the first responders of Dallas for choosing their families? Dallas Firefighters Association Vice President Stephen Klempner says it best. We will take pride in being public servants and helping the public, but when it's all said and done, you still have to feed the kids and pay the mortgage. With a continued disparity in pay between Phoenix and its surrounding cities, it will only be a matter of time before this kind of problem manifests itself here. In public safety, first responders experience is an absolute invaluable trait. First responders with 5, 6, 7 years of service represent one of our most crucial demographics for service delivery. These personnel carry perhaps the most water for our respective organizations, and to lose those seasoned and fully trained responders to other cities would create a void that would be difficult for both departments to fill. In our experience, with public safety in Phoenix, we have seen morale levels at extreme highs and extreme lows. We know and can appreciate the differences between the two. Low morale will quickly add toxicity to any organization, hamper its effectiveness, and present safety issues. Fortunately, the fire and police departments have the ability to be resilient towards low morale, but that only lasts for so long. Historic levels of high morale are what propel our agencies into the world-class organizations they are today. High levels of morale are a requirement to maintain and build upon our accomplishments to serve the citizens of Phoenix in the future.
It has been said that pride is the fuel of human accomplishment, and when employees feel valued, the organizations they work for fire on all cylinders. The forthcoming round of contract negotiations will give the city an opportunity to not only express to its employees the level at which they are valued, but also demonstrate to our community that we are indeed a city that is well managed. A fair contract will benefit everyone in this room and the city of Phoenix as a whole. Your first responders in Phoenix do so much more than just arrest criminals and put out fires. We protect our city with world-class, comprehensive emergency services for any situation that may arise. Year for year, the Phoenix area has expanded in size, and the frequency and intensity of emergencies have escalated. In the face of increased workloads, staffing shortages, budget reductions, first responders have been able to maintain or improve service delivery despite earning less for the past 6 years. We fully acknowledge the challenges pension employer contributions present to the financial picture of Phoenix. Your first responders have been committed to do our part to help the funding of our pensions with reductions in benefits, increased employee contributions, and creating a self-imposed, comprehensive pension reform plan for the public safety retirement system. If implemented, this reform will bring the PSPRS funding level up to 75% in 14 years. I want to repeat that, 75% in 14 years. In the course of that time, this would greatly reduce the amount of employer contributions that Phoenix is required to make to our pensions. Sadly, this reform plan has met more obstacles than it should have, and it remains in limbo at the state legislature. Rather than sit by idly and observe, first responders have done our fair share to proactively and effectively address the issues within our pension system. To put it bluntly, we cannot be expected to be continually penalized with reductions in pay for pension issues that are outside of our control, especially as surrounding cities who make the same pension contributions as Phoenix consistently give their employees more. We are proud to say that we have done our part and then some in the course of our shared sacrifice to support Phoenix during its darkest financial days. We have never turned our back on Phoenix. We've either supported or opposed propositions for the benefit of Phoenix and have consistently done more with less as we serve our city. Campaign signs and social media posts frequently mention endorsements by or support of first responders. But now comes what we would consider to be the greatest and most genuine show of support for your first responders. In closing, the time has come for city leadership to protect its protectors from any further reductions in pay. Should Phoenix decide to continue its continued trend of pay cuts and furloughs to its first responders, this would signify where an approach usually reserved for financial crises now becomes standard practice. We are hopeful that our presentation has clearly identified the issues and pitfalls associated with continuing the dangerous act of balancing the city's budget on the backs of its employees. It is our most sincere and humble request that the leadership of Phoenix choose the 2016-17 Memorandum of Understandings as an opportunity to do what's right for its first responders. A fair contract would keep Phoenix on the map of excellence as a world-class city in which to work and live in. On behalf of the 4,500 first responders of Phoenix, we would like to thank Mayor Stanton and the council for the opportunity to share with you a few of our thoughts and concerns. We are hopeful that this round of contract negotiations leads to a fair and equitable agreement for all parties involved. This would conclude our presentation. We again thank you for your time, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. All right, thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions, member of the council? Sean Mattson, did you want to provide any comments? I know now. I think we've now received the official commentary from the representatives of the 5 organizations. Did you want to provide any comments? I know now. I think we've now received the official commentary from the representatives of the 5 organizations representing employees of the City of Phoenix. Sean, it's a slightly different type of organization, but you do have a card, and it is appropriate, I think, for the public now to comment on what they've heard here today. So is that okay? Okay, good.
Yes, it is, Mayor.
So I have cards from Sean Mattson, representing Sergeant Lieutenants, Jason Stokes, representing Aspetia, Ken Crane, who's president of PLEA, and an army of people who have donated their time to you, President Crane. So you'll have virtually unlimited time. Please use good discretion. Mr. Mattson, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mayor. Mayor, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. As has been mentioned a couple of times, first, I'm Sean Mattson. I'm president of the Phoenix Police Sergeants Lieutenants Association. As been mentioned a couple of times, the council does not control officially directly our contract because we're part of the meet and discuss groups. It goes directly to the city manager. I'm here in support, though, of my fellow co-workers of the City of Phoenix, particularly the public safety group. Employers are judged how they treat their resources, and an employer's most valuable resource is its employees. I don't want to bore you with repeating everything that's been said by the fellow employees that have stood before you prior to me, but I do want to reiterate a few things. The Phoenix Police Department is 500 short right now, and we can't hire. We can't hire quick enough. As has been said before, a healthy package for compensation and pay attracts workers. That will help us fill the 500 spaces that we have available right now to be hired. It also attracts and makes the process competitive, so we get the cream of the crop, so that we can ensure high levels of integrity within our organization, so that Phoenix Police Department can continue to be the law enforcement professionals that they are and do service for the city of Phoenix and its citizens. As was mentioned before by Unit 2, hundreds of thousands of hours was put up on the PowerPoint in furlough hours. Furlough hours equals no work. The bad news for the employees is we're not getting paid. But the bad news for the city of Phoenix is that's work that should be done that's not getting done. The folks that spoke before me went through the series of concessions. We're at our third step. I'm not going to bore you with that again, but and Will did a really good job of even comparing it to how it impacts with the economy and how the economy is growing and we're shrinking with our paychecks. Every time I turn on the radio, I hear how the money's just flowing in, how the airport is seeing an uptick in traffic, how holiday revenue is up by 27%, they said. We did $90 million worth of savings a few years ago at the Innovation Efficiency Task Force. Last year, we did $16 million in savings in our improvement to the healthcare system that the city, or healthcare trust that the city manages. 3 years ago, the City of Phoenix Police Department did a 57% reduction in overtime. All these monies that's being saved on a daily basis, yet we're cutting deeper and deeper to the bone. City employees, as has been said before, go out and they'll still continue to provide a high level of service until they find another job. And that's what we see on a daily basis. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Mattson. Jason, presentate a reasonable estimate. You have up to 12 minutes based upon the number of people donating time. President Crane.
I won't be as maybe as polished as my predecessors, but I'll be a lot shorter, so something to look forward to. First of all, my name is Ken Crane, President of Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. We represent about 2,000 rank and file Phoenix police officers. We would probably have a lot more police officers sitting here today, but as you know, we're 700 officers down right now. I want to start by saying that public safety has been good partners over the years. 6 years of cuts and concessions, which have resulted in savings of multi-millions of dollars to the city. We didn't like it, but we soldiered on, like the professionals that we are, to put the citizens first and protect the city. As you know, we had 2 arbitration processes in those 6 years. We took one on and we lost, and the city said, hey, honor the process. We didn't like it, but we did. We went to arbitration again, we won. We asked the city, hey, honor the process. You didn't. We soldiered on, we didn't like it, but we moved on. I think it's important to note that public safety is to a city essentially what the Second Amendment is to the Bill of Rights. You have all these rights enumerated in the Constitution, but the Second Amendment protects it. In a city, you want a viable city, you want to attract commerce, you want to attract residents, you want to have growth, but you can't have it without effective public safety. Without public safety, a city is nothing. They will collapse, they will fold. In my opinion, the only job comparable to that of a police officer is a military soldier in a combat zone, and I say that because I don't know of any other profession out there where you leave the briefing room locked and loaded with 40 rounds of live ammunition, knowing that at any moment you could be in the fight for your life and have to make a decision on whether or not to take a human life. It is an extremely heavy, heavy responsibility, and not just anybody can do these jobs. Firefighters run into burning buildings. Cops run to the sound of the gunfight while everybody else has the luxury of running away. And I can tell you that at that moment in time in your career, if you have to run into a burning building, if you have to run to a gunfight, you are the most underpaid person in the world at that point in time. In Phoenix, with the police department, our goal is to hire 300 new officers this fiscal year. I got news for you. We're not going to make it. We're just not. We've had to lower hiring standards to get people through the door. We can attract qualified candidates. And in fiscal year 2016, we got 90 more cops going out the door due to drop. So hiring 300 cops makes for a great soundbite on the news until the other shoe drops and you tell the media how many people are continually trickling out the door. These new hires, if we get them, are just going to allow us to keep our chin above the water line as we tread water. Add to that our new hires come through the door and we go, hey, surprise, we need 36 furlough hours from you. And they're like, hey, we didn't see that in the fine print. Okay, well, that's how the system works here. Unfortunately, the Phoenix PD is between a rock and a hard place. No significant hiring for almost 7 years, 6 years of cuts and concessions. I won't get into the weed on the numbers. You guys know them better than I do. Squads out on the street working dangerously short and understaffed. Officers demoralized and burned out. Officers that can't take a day off of work because their squads are so short-staffed. We have officers leaving drop early, not staying for 5 years, and we've got other officers who are hitting their 20 or 21 and saying, you know what, I don't need drop, I'm leaving, I'm getting out of this place. Add to that the furloughs that we've had imposed on us, which has kind of turned into quite the debacle. It's probably been one of the biggest points of contention, angst, and grief amongst our officers out of anything in that contract with the way those furloughs are structured and the way they run. And I'm wrapping up here. I just want to say this. I think Phoenix public safety has always been the gold standard statewide here in Arizona. It's what everybody aspires to. If you want to work in public safety, Phoenix has always been the place. We set the bar. We're the gold standard. I think we're still there. But in my eyes, from where I sit, we're losing the battle. We're losing the fight. And we're running the risk of falling below that gold standard to where we won't be able to attract viable, qualified candidates. Continued cuts and concessions drastically impair our ability to recruit quality and viable candidates. Our contract, this is our contract, our MOU for the PD. It took 40 years to build this with the rights and benefits that are in this thing. It was built a step at a time over 40 years. This is used heavily when we go out to recruit people. This is how we get people to come to Phoenix. Hey, take a look at what we got here for you. Come work for us. All right? But every year, We go through this thing, and the city goes, hey, we want some more pay. Hey, we want more concessions. Hey, we need more of this. And we slowly chip away this contract to the point where pretty soon we're no better than the rest of the places around the valley, and we're on this level playing field where we aren't the gold standard anymore, and we can't hire and we can't keep people. And then the downside is we run the risk of having officers, existing officers, that start looking and shopping around for other places that might be better than Phoenix. The grass is greener. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go back home to Minnesota or Michigan and work there. I'll go to where my family is. That's what I got to say here, and I'm going to wrap it up at that point. Thanks for listening, and I just hope that you will take to heart and heed what we said here. We have to make changes. We have to find a way to stop these cuts, these concessions that are hurting our members, and get to a better place with that. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much, President Crane.